and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
I'm Chad McCanna.
So I don't mean to scare you there, Chad, but it's Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. I am on edge, but I want to do a podcast.
Oh, I'm going to have to hide under the covers for this one.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is our Halloween episode. When you will be listening to it, it will be Halloween, although we are recording it on Wednesday night. And some of you actually get to listen to it as we're recording.
What a privilege.
What a privilege and an honor.
Yeah, so what Hyle's referring to is the Patreon that we discussed at length last week.
Yep, so we got another 2 hours of discussion on it this week, so don't you worry.
We want to make sure all of you understand the intricacies of shipping Brothers Bear posters.
That's correct. No, seriously, we launched our Patreon last week, and yeah, it's really been heartwarming to see the outpouring of support, and we don't want to let you down. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. We actually it's doing quite a bit better than I expected, and all of that's owing to.
You thought we'd have like $5 at this point.
No, I thought it would be like a humble single milestone breaker, but within a few days we've already smashed our first 2 milestones, and the next one up is the $500 tier where I have to start twitching my entire life.
Yeah, come on. Hyle wants to quit his job, everybody. Come on now. No, yeah, we've broken our first 2 milestones, so the Kongversation will be on SoundCloud, I believe starting with this episode.
Yep.
And
yeah, we have already got our SoundCloud Pro account, which basically means we can upload an unlimited length of audio, and of course we need that for this show.
Unlimited length.
Oh, yeah, that was a bit of a stretch. Hey, lads.
Innuendo.
All right, let's call it back. So, yeah, the Patreon, thank you so much for doing that. Go to dkvine.com/Patreon. Check out the rewards tier, and seriously, don't feel bad if you don't have any money to donate or anything. But if you've done like a Kickstarter before, it's very similar to that. It's just kind of an ongoing campaign. $1 a month would just be pennies a day, and
and you wouldn't have to feed any starving children. It's a win-win.
That's right. You can feed starving adults.
That's right. I haven't actually eaten today, but nothing but caffeine, pills, and coffee. So, should be a good episode.
Yeah, that's where podcasts come from.
The other milestone we broke was we will be doing at least one more episode of the Vine Donkey Kong audio program. The unfinished episode that's been rotting in our archives for the better part of 3 years is now going to be finished. So
yeah, so much like repurposing rotten meat, we'll cut off all the rancid bits and make sure that that we've reconstituted any stuff that just isn't usable. I know that there's a few re-recordings we'll need to do.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a rant in there about Connect Sports or something that is no longer really applicable.
Let's back away slowly from that one.
Yeah. So we'll make it up to par for 2015, and we'll release it. But it's really exciting. There's going to be a lot of work to go into it. Luckily, Alistair Craig is up for the job. So thank you again for everybody for pitching in where they can. And if you are still on the fence, if you want to, like Chad said, $1 would be terrific. It would help support the site. It would let us build towards these goals we have, and you just feel better about yourself.
Right, and that's really what it's all about.
Self-esteem. You did something good. You allowed grown men to continue making their childhood procrastination continue well, towards the grave. So thank you.
God, I wish I could procrastinate. These days it's like from one thing to the next 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 to the sleep.
Well, I meant
and
DK.
I wake up and do it all over again.
DK Vine was how we procrastinated from doing homework back in high school. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. Most of my homework got done at about 3 a.m.
Yeah, right.
after we did that night's update.
Yeah. So yeah. It's nice that if nothing else, we still have that. Now we're procrastinating from having meaningful adult relationships.
That's right. And on a more granular level, we're procrastinating from this very episode. So let's proceed.
Shit. Okay, well, it is Halloween, and we did 2 Halloween episodes of the aforementioned Vine Donkey Kong audio program, which I'm really proud of, and you should go back to listen to after you're done with this episode, because
they ain't like they were.
Yeah, one episode where we the Vine being basically an audio play. One episode where we go to Transylvania to hunt for ghosts in Vlad the Impaler's castle. And then another episode where we go to a zombie universe. So those are really fun. And but for the Kongversation, we only really did a spotlight for Grabbed by the Ghoulies in our first season for Halloween. Last year, it was right in the middle of Smash Brothers Mania, and didn't really allot ourselves time for a Halloween episode. So plus it was during the Chibbatical, and I think Joe's strict Christian upbringing keeps him from celebrating Halloween.
Yeah. Although it was appropriate in a sense, because there are few things more terrifying than the user experience of Smash Brothers fronting.
That's what we'll be discussing tonight. No. So, I thought it would be good. Well, we both thought it would be good to... This episode actually falls on Halloween this year. Let's do an episode celebrating the Fearbringers of the Donkey Kong universe. And this is we did a segment on this in the Transylvanian episode of The Vine, but the Kongversation will allow us to actually have full-length discussions about these topics rather than immediately launching into Alistair getting lost in the kitchen finding spooky sandwich ingredients.
Yeah, and by the way, that scene of Alistair finding sandwich ingredients went on for about 45 minutes. The crazy part, though, is that it's intensely entertaining.
It's man, the Halloween episodes of The Vine are, I think, my favorite. Absolutely. Well, the James Bond one was pretty good too. But
yeah, there is though a regrettable Ghost Dad reference.
To be fair, that was before we acknowledged he was a rapist.
That's right. There were just but whispers of Bill Cosby, of the Ghost Dads. What do you call it? Just like horribleness.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't even want to dance around it with flowery language. Just his status as a wretched human being.
When you dance around it, are you going to do it in the Cosby Show style, like the opening credits?
Oh, the opening credits. Yeah. And then I'll make like a wacky face at the camera and look and roll my eyes back in my head.
Then, like in the third season, you can do a Calypso version.
Rudy, I'm whitewashing my legacy.
Unfortunately, Bill Cosby is not a Donkey Kong universe character, so that's not one of the voices you can get by reaching that 1 tier on our Patreon.
Yeah. No, it's wait, hang on. Unfortunately, Bill Cosby is not a Donkey Kong universe character.
I thought I said unfortunately. Maybe that was a Freudian slip. Maybe I just really want could you imagine if Ryan Stiles turned out to be a serial killer? Wouldn't that be hilarious for the Donkey Kong universe?
Not only that, but it would perhaps bode well for his inclusion in a future Conker game.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, Ryan Stiles is rated M for mature. Yeah. So anyway, call the DK Vine hotline. We'll be taking some calls very shortly here. 1-281-410-KONG. That is 5664. Also join the DK Vine forum, dkvine.com/forum. Never been a better time to join.
That's right. Never, ever, 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 ever. Yeah, on any platform. Subscribe to The Kongversation on iTunes. Be sure to rate us on iTunes if you haven't. It just takes a fraction of a second. Follow DK Vine on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and I guess now Patreon. Yeah, actually. Well, yeah, I don't know what the verb is. Patronize us on Patreon.
I don't think that's the... never mind. Finally, tell your friends.
Technically, I guess if you go with the root word, then patronize. It's just that modern colloquial English has gutted the definition of that beautiful word.
Well, I should be like a billionaire at this point, considering you've been patronizing me for 16 years.
Yeah. Where'd it all go?
Up my nose. Tell your friends about the Kongversation, please. You spread the word. We're a very insular bunch here at DK Vine, so it'd be nice to bring in some new blood every now and then.
Right. And like we said again on the Patreon, the low tiers are very low, and I think you get a lot of shit for it. Like $1, you'll get your name in the credits on our monthly bonus live episode, which we may have some adjustments to the format of that are exciting. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. And at the $2 tier, you get the Kongversation a day before everyone else. And at $5, you have access to the live stream that we're doing as we speak.
Yeah. There's people right now listening to us.
Yeah,
so that's
like $5 yeah, a little bit. I'm looking over, and the Twitch chat seems disturbingly quiet.
Oh, it was probably all the rape jokes. Well, to be fair, we didn't make rape jokes. We made Bill Cosby is a rapist jokes.
Yes, very different. There's a distinction we must point out there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean $5. You get you get at least 4 live streams, 4 in February, 4 and a third every other month, for $5. That's not bad.
No.
I'm begging at this point. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's get off of monetary discussion and let's take some calls, because we asked the people in our various social media empires to call in this week and tell us about your favorite or least favorite scariest moments from the Donkey Kong universe. What really made your blood run cold?
Yeah.
Because, look, ostensibly, these are mostly children's games. And you wouldn't, if you're an outsider looking in, you wouldn't think there'd be anything in these games that could scare you. But it's my theory that the scariest moments can be found in games like that, because you're not ready for it. You're not braced for it.
You're lulled into a false sense of security, and then the rug is ripped out from under you.
Yeah, there are games that, just make you tense. I know we both had the experience playing Red Dead Redemption, Undead... Well,
Undead Nightmare.
Undead Nightmare, yeah. That was just...
Ooh.
Yeah, like sweaty palms, and just, you're like locked up. You're tense the entire time.
Until you get the war horse... that Undead Nightmare is just like an exercise in stress, because did you ever catch War? They have the 4 horses of the apocalypse running through the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So War was the one that was on fire the entire time. So if you get that as your mount and you hitch him to a hitch post or whatever they're called, it like saves it, but then you can just run into zombies with your horse and they catch on fire.
Yeah.
So it sort of breaks the game, but I had a lot of fun with Undead Nightmare.
No, I really liked... did you ever beat it?
No, because it got too scary.
Yeah, I had to play it during the daytime, and my roommate...
We are pussies because we've been raised on these children games.
Oh, absolutely. No, my roommate had it, and near the end of the game, you're like riding towards the... like Mayan temple, where the reason this all started was spoilers. Somebody stole a Mayan artifact and it like raised the dead, or vaguely racist, I guess. But you ride towards like the final mission in the game or whatever, and they play like this surf rock like song, like this like kind of yeah. But it's totally fitting with like the kind of retro horror shtick of the game. Yeah. So that was like a really cool like moment where like the game stops being scary and you just get pumped instead.
And one thing I loved about that, and we'll move on in a second, but I loved how like it was a pretty extensive DLC package, but they figured out how to make it work canonically. So, spoiler for Red Dead Redemption, at the end of the game, it sort of jumps forward, and then you have this couple hours worth of epilogue where you play as the protagonist's son. But Red Dead Redemption takes place in that intermediate time period. And not only that, but there's this guy, that old guy who was like your wife's dad, who the old fat guy who hung out on your ranch.
Yeah.
When it flashes forward to you're playing as the main character's son, Jake, he has a grave, that old guy. And, you just assume, he was old. This is like 20 years later. He just died. But then you find out that he turned into a zombie and you shot him, and that's why he's dead.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can fan wank it to be canonical. I don't know if it's actually considered canon. I'm not, I'm not a Red Dead Redemption universe fanatic, so I wouldn't know. But I think, if I were, I surely would fan wank it. So
right, Right.
Yeah.
And we're experienced wankers of any stripe.
That's right. But we especially love wanking with the fans. So,
Speaking of which, let's take a call.
okay, I'll unzip.
Hey, it's, me again. I'm
All right.
I need to share my most horrifying memory in a rare game. So, what always freaked me out was the game over screen in DK64, of course. Where some girl's laughing maniacally, and he's going to point the blaster mag at the island.
Mm-hmm.
That always kind of freaked me out because it's like it makes you feel like you failed. Everyone's dying because it's your fault. And the worst part is that that scene always played when you just wanted to quit the game. So the only way to not have that happen is just shut it off without hitting exit game. Yeah.
He's getting
happy
upset.
Halloween anyway. Because Chad likes me saying this. Komechi out.
Yeah! Did he drop the mic? Okay, you can't tell.
Full disclosure, we've actually been talking with Memechi for the past several days. He is he's at the $25 tier, so he's part of the Inner Circle Skype chat. And
it's a fun chat. But if we're gonna chill briefly again, it's got like everyone on the DK Vine staff plus backers at the 25, not backers, patrons at the 25 plus tier,
right.
And it's pretty good. It's kind of ongoing 24/7. You want to talk about something, jump in there, and chances are someone will indulge that.
Right.
So
it was fun. Like last night there was this anti-rare video that sprung up on some popular YouTube channel. I'm not going to plug it, but basically, yeah, people were bitching about it in the Inner Circle chat, and it was fun having that immediate catharsis of, oh, I'm angry about something, but now I've got these friends to help calm me down.
Yeah, it really is kind of like an extension of the forum.
But it's like immediate. It's not like you're waiting for somebody to post something. You can get like immediate reaction because people are just hanging out there and just kind of constantly running in the background. So yeah, it's very cool. And I feel closer to Memechi than I ever did before.
For hook or crook. What do you think about this one? The game over screen for an E-rated game.
Yeah, well, this is a discussion we had in the Inner Circle chat then about how Rare really liked, not so much anymore because game over screens are kind of an antiquated part of the past at this point.
Yeah, they were on their way out in the N64 era.
Yeah, lives for that matter, are kind of passe in a lot of games, but.
And in fact, Donkey Kong 64 didn't even have them.
Yeah, well, Banjo-Tooie didn't either.
Right, but Banjo-Tooie didn't really have a game over cinema. It was just you just heard and it had game over on the screen.
Yeah. But fair point. But yeah, we had a discussion. Rare really liked like absolutely bleak game over screens. Like it wasn't just game over, try again. It was you have failed and you're going to die a horrible death, as will most of your loved ones. And like they really like driving home that kind of just sheer depressing angst, which I guess if you're a kid and especially a sensitive kid, that could really like hit you hard.
Yeah, I mean, it really started with the first Donkey Kong Country, if you want to go all the way back.
This is surprising because a lot of people have said, oh, that's such a creepy game over screen. Never really read that way to me as a kid. I guess the music more than anything sells it, but to me it was kind of melancholy, but I always just pictured it like, oh yeah, Donkey and Diddy got beat up, they've got black eyes and bruises. But
well, hang on a second, let me play it real quick and you can see exactly.
I can hear exactly.
Oh yes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Donkey Kong Country itself through the genius of David Wise and I think for one track Robin Beanland and a little Evelyn Fisher. I mean, it was mostly Dave Wise, but
don't sell Evelyn's contribution short. She did quite a bit on that game.
I think I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with a citation needed because I know the conventional wisdom is that it was mostly Dave Wise with some help from Evelyn and Robin, but I don't know if that's just the internet word or not. But at any rate, it was mostly Dave Wise, and that whole game was much more atmospheric than the bleeps and bloops and Koji Kondo style standards. But
Koji Kondo, one of our backers, he's shedding a tear right now.
Oh yeah, in the Twitch chat, he's walked out. No, but the game over screen took that.
It's like the Arrested Development GIF. Oh, I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah, the game over took that idea, that like atmospheric thing to an extreme, and it's not just the song by itself. It's not just that visual of DK and Diddy beat up, but combined, it's, I wouldn't say scary, but it certainly makes you feel guilty, and that's scary in a way.
Yeah, I remember. I'm gonna bring Elliot up. I'm sorry, but I remember when we were playing the game, we commented on like how it felt like you failed Cranky, like you his low expectations of you were met, and like Donkey Kong Country felt like it, especially Donkey Kong Land, was a quest to prove Cranky wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I could definitely see that interpretation of it. I've seen people say they got scared over this game over screen, like it was the stuff of nightmares, which I don't see it. Like you've got the music itself, it's melancholy, but it's kind of got this Peruvian funkiness to it, where it's like
I would say African funkiness, but yeah, Peruvian.
No, I don't know. Maybe I'm just hearing the pan flutes. Maybe there are no pan flutes in there, but it sounds. I don't know. It sounds vaguely South American.
All right. I don't know exactly what vaguely South American would sound like, but maybe Donkey Kong Country. But then going forward to the Donkey Kong Country 2 game over screen, that was, Diddy and Dixie similarly in a still render, but then that screen turned red. I always interpreted that as like the sunset coming through.
Yeah, I always pictured it like it was a hot box, like, where like they would throw unruly prisoners in back in the day, like where they would just sweat it out, and I just saw that as like heat like pouring in. But yeah, there's a couple different interpretations of that. I think universally, this is something we were talking about too in the inner circle, only $25 a month. That they were like awaiting their execution, or at the very least, like they were the last ones that could have rescued Donkey Kong, and now nobody's coming to rescue them, and it's just like this. It's hopeless at this point for them.
Well, that's the end.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. That is the end of the Donkey Kong series. Everybody, goodbye.
Yeah. And in the ultimate Nintendo published timeline of the Donkey Kong Country series, that one will branch off into The Hero is Defeated.
Such a fucking okay. I'm not going to get into my opinions on that the Zelda timeline. It's
part of the split at Ocarina of Time makes perfect sense and is obviously intentional. Wind Waker is one of them, and it's got the connective tissue when you go beneath the sea. Majora's Mask obviously picks up the gone back in time to be a child again timeline. So that makes sense. But this whole the hero is defeated idea, I'm dubious.
I mean, technically, it does tie into quantum physics and the theories there about, an infinite number of universes based on every small minor choice everyone makes, but that's a silly thing to hang your game series on. Like, is there going to be a timeline where, depending on how many bombs Link was carrying at the end of the game, or like his exact inventory? I don't know. It just seems like...
Well, the multiverse theory would say yes.
Yes, I know, but again, it gets silly. Like, I like my game series to be kind of clean, and we almost got split timelines with Banjo-Kazooie Grunny's Revenge until they ultimately decided to make that a mid-cool instead.
Okay, well, I mean, hang on a second though. if the game involves time travel, like Ocarina of Time sort of hung its entire premise on, then I think that having a branching point in a series is appropriate.
I think my issue with it is it surmises that the gamer failed. Like this branch, like if you're playing a game, ultimately the canonical path should be that you never fail. Like any follow up to that game shouldn't just assume you died playing it and you never picked it back up again. So to have a whole branch of the Zelda timeline be you sucked at Ocarina of Time, that doesn't sit right with me.
No, I agree. I think it really just makes sense to have the two.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, so Donkey Kong Country 3 had, and this one people have said is scary, and this surprised me because this one was always kind of lame to me. This is one area I'm a big defender of Donkey Kong Country 3. I think it's a great sequel. My second favorite of the rare Donkey Kong Countries, probably third favorite altogether after Tropical Freeze, but. It was just Dixie and Kitty sitting in a crib, and Dixie was looking mildly perturbed.
Yeah, and here's the actually I got the music right here for it. It's kind of creepy.
Okay, well, hearing the music out of the context, yeah, that's creepy as balls. Because my balls are creepy. My balls are creepy. I got old man balls.
I caught the subtext.
Thank you. I think it's the creaking door that more than anything that does it. It's just it's got this kind of surrealist. It's like in Ren and Stimpy when they would have those like hyper detailed like still images.
Yes. Yeah, the John K. Staple, and then they would have the foghorn go.
It kind of reminds me of those weird, creepy, hyper realistic, hyper detailed like images from Ren and Stimpy, and
Really.
Combined with the music and the door creaking and just, I don't know, it invokes the similar kind of nerve in me. I didn't find it scary then, but now I can see, just hearing the music and looking for it, I can see why people were unnerved by it.
Didn't someone on the forum or in the chat room or something say that like for their entire time they thought that Kitty and Dixie had been stuffed and were basically taxidermied?
I think that's an extreme reading of it. I just thought that like Kitty's parents.
But holograms are okay. But the second On Guard appearing underwater because it's a shimmering effect from coral capers. That's not an extreme interpretation.
I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I'm happy with who I am. No,
let your freak flag fly.
My interpretation was always that like Kitty's parents had put Dixie in a timeout with Kitty for like endangering his life. I don't know,
If they could just come along anytime a Kremling hits you too many times, then what the hell is Dixie babysitting Kitty for? Kitty's parents have a lot to answer for.
But the jumping ahead to Banjo-Kazooie, that's when they had the whole like and we talked about this, how all the N64 like big tentpole series entries minus Banjo-Tooie had like these animated game over screens that provided like that illustrated your failure in very elaborate ways. Like these were whole like lengthy scenes. Banjo-Kazooie, of course, had, Gruntilda stealing Tootie's beauty and becoming hot Grunty. And then Mumbo...
Well, Tootie became Muty Tootie.
Yeah, and then Mumbo just chucked his, his ideals, his morals out the window, basically turned on you, turned on everybody, because and turned on his past history with Gruntilda.
Now, that's something I was hoping that we would get to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, because, that's something that I think it's overlooked a lot, is that when Mumbo comes out, he says, pretty Grunty, take Mumbo back. Right?
Does he say that?
I think so.
No, I think you're imagining.
Am I making that up?
Yeah, I think you're making that up. There's never any of that. You're reading subtext into it where there is no subtext to be read.
Okay.
But yeah, it's established, especially in Grunty's Revenge, that Mumbo is just a horn dog in general. So I could see him say, well, yeah, she disfigured my face, but she's hot.
I apologize for that. I'm looking at the ending right now.
Good pod.
Good pod. Oh, fantastic pod. We're still working out the kinks, folks. All right, here comes Mumbo. Let's see. Pulls out a flower, and he says, "Grunty, nice. Come back to Mumbo's skull." Oh, okay, never mind. Come back to Mumbo's skull. All right.
Unless that was a cunnilingus reference.
How would that? Oh, okay. Yes, the skull on his head.
Right.
Not the head on his skull. All right.
So that wasn't scary though. That was just more of a comical you suck ending. But Donkey Kong 64 definitely. I can see Mamechi what Mamechi's saying. You're basically viewing the last few seconds of Donkey Kong Island's existence.
Right. Yeah. And K. Rool's laughter was like. He was in full like Dr. Claw arch-villain mode in that cutscene.
I mean,
which was tonally consistent with the intro, but not really the boss fight.
The imagery itself wasn't frightening, but when you actually think about it, that every animal, every primate on Donkey Kong Island is about to be exterminated in a fiery holocaust. Yeah, that's pretty bleak.
Yeah, with nary a snowman to be found.
And of course, Conker's Bad Fur Day then also, they had multiple game over screens depending on how Conker died and when he died in the game.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, and we were talking about this again in the Inner Circle chat. And
plug.
By the way, we're not gonna keep bringing up that fucking Inner Circle chat every episode, but this is where we talk about this stuff before the show. So $25, come on. No, Jeff Onan brought up that Crash Bandicoot had a bunch of different game over screens depending on how, or animations depending on how you died, and Conker sort of carried on that tradition.
Right, fitting that Crash Bandicoot was obviously inspired by Donkey Kong Country, so at least Rare was able to borrow something back from Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah,
but if you drown, for instance, the Weasel Guards, which we just learned their names from Chris Seaver. I forget what it was, but it was
Bill, I think, and
Ted.
Not Bert, because probably Bill and Ted.
Okay, so Bill and Ted drag a sopping wet Conker corpse in a bag back to the Panther King, and say sorry, he's a bit wet. And, of course, in one, he's just straight up the leg on the Panther King's table. There, he's actually stuffed. I don't know about Dixie and Kitty, but Conker was definitely taxidermied in that scene.
Oh, was he? It's been a long time since I saw it. I haven't seen it on Rare Replay yet, but because there's that one 10-tail thing for some reason in the Barn Boys chapter, which is strange. You never get another 10-tail item again. But anyway, it's hard to get a game over if you know that that's there. I thought that in that version of the game over screen, he was like wrapped up in duct tape, sort of like a burrito, and just kind of going. I thought it was that.
Oh, maybe I'm not remembering right now. Well, apologies, Chad.
Yeah, no, we're just both terrible podcasters.
We're terrible people, to be perfectly fair. I mean,
yeah, but everyone knew that already. You know what you paid for.
And then, actually, if you die before, the applicable cutscene that sets up the plot, Conker just appears on a milk carton.
Yeah, I remember that one as well. So. I do like, though, that depending on the state of Conker, Bill and Ted do or do not get the duct tape.
Yeah.
And so it's also a terrible ending for them.
Well, Conker's Bad Fur. We'll be discussing that, I'm sure, multiple times in this episode. It had a lot of disconcerting moments,
to say the least. But yeah, in general, Mamechi, I don't think it's at all strange that you find the ending, the game over cinema, to be scary. Especially as a kid, if you're playing it and and all of a sudden you're faced with mortality.
Well. Yeah, I can see it, especially like when I was a kid, I was terrified about the concept of the end of the world. And I think that's because I was a kid in the 90s and, it's constant, like the year 2000, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, Judgment Day was in 1997. What do you think's gonna happen?
And then that it took on different. When you're a kid and you believe what you're told. Book of Revelation. Judgment Day, and then as you're older, a little less willing to believe everything you're told. But then Y2K, and a lot of like millennium madness leading up to the year 2000. So like anything vaguely apocalyptic was like my big unnerving as a kid. So even Ghostbusters was scary to me because they had that scene in the car where they talk about what's happening might be the end of the world. And
and then Ghostbusters, like when the third act begins, I think it's the third act. And all of a sudden, because it's when the dickless EPA guy turns off the containment unit, and all the ghosts start flying out, and then all of a sudden you get like this skyline of Manhattan, but it's got this like really creepy 80s synth music, and it's just a bunch of ghosts like invading New York. That still gives me chills in the middle of a comedy.
And then the sky actually does turn pitch black as Ray and Winston, talk about happens in the Bible, and it just that the Ghostbusters, like Ghostbusters 2 is my favorite Ghostbusters movie as a little kid because it seemed less apocalyptic.
Hyle. Okay.
But no,
because it was less scary. I was like, that's the only sense in which Ghostbusters 2 is better.
But then I think when I got to an age where it didn't bother me anymore, Ghostbusters became my favorite movie of all time. But anyway, so I could see why the ultimate destruction of Donkey Kong Island would be terrifying, especially these are like your friends, Donkey, Diddy, the whole gang. There's a comfort level there that when you're basically witnessing the last seconds of their existence, it's even if it's not canonical, even if you can immediately undo it the second you start playing it again, it's tough as a kid.
Are you the kind of person who gets like a pang of guilt by hitting the reset button because you're destroying these characters' worlds momentarily?
No, I view the reset button as, I don't want to get a game over, so I'm just going to hit the reset button so the characters don't have to go through that.
Oh, okay, so they probably are quite thankful for it.
Yeah, right.
Let's take another call.
All right, thanks, Mamechi.
Hey guys, ACZ here. I'm calling in to tell you about my scariest DKU memory, and that would have to be back when I was about 4 years old playing Donkey Kong Country. It was one of the first times I had ever played the game. I was loving it all the way, and then I got to Stop and Go Station, and that's when I found the Rock Crocs, and about halfway through they started freaking me out, mostly because of the stop and go mechanic. I don't know why, but it probably freaked me out, mostly because I was 4 years old and that I was playing it in the dark at like 9 o'clock. I was actually pretty scared that I actually ran the other way when the level began, which is actually weirdly enough how I discovered the secret of that level. Anyways, just a quick little story for Halloween. Hope you guys have a great week, and just keep being awesome. And congrats on the 20-plus Patreon subscribers that you guys already have. That's awesome. Can't wait to see what other milestones you guys hit. Anyways, see ya.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much, ACZ. And you are one of our patrons, so thank you especially for the call and for the trust that you've instilled in us. Hope we make you proud.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure when people say, keep being awesome, and then you're like, oh.
But I never was. What are you talking about?
And then it all comes falling apart. It's like the coyote, standing on the invisible cliff.
Yeah, don't look down.
Obviously we're going to talk about Stop and Go Station at some point tonight.
It would be crazy not to.
Yeah, I think this is everybody's first moment in the Donkey Kong universe, if you're playing these in chronological order, where you experience terror. Donkey Kong Country, like up until that point, wasn't scary, and I wouldn't say like pretty much after it wasn't scary. I mean, it was atmospheric, it was very immersive, unlike anything we had seen up until that point in video games, especially Nintendo games, but I'm not knocking
It was only scary if you got a game over in the first world.
And I'm not knocking Nintendo games. I'm just saying, like as you said, you go from the beeps and boops and pastels of Mario to something that's a world you completely buy into. It's very real. It could be taking place just across the sea, So Stop and Go Station, yeah, it was. Oh my God. And I think a large part of Stop and Go Station, and we've discussed this many times on DK Vine in various ways, but again, the music, and not only the music, but the atmospheric sound effects within the music.
Yeah, it's not dogs barking, but everything has this sort of otherworldly echo.
Can you pull it up?
Stop and Go Station. Yeah. So while I'm doing that, no, it's interesting the way that Dave Wise sort of layered the channels on the SNES in such a way that it could give these really creepy, echoey effects. And it was used to great effect in Stop and Go Station.
Yeah, let's listen to some of that to really help illustrate what we're talking about.
I'm still trying to find it. Look, we're not doing this. No, we're not doing this. I can't do both things. Don't put me on the spot like that.
All right, fair enough. No, the Rock Crocs themselves were, of course, very creepy. I think it was just the red eyes and the whole unnatural. I'm gonna shrivel into a rock like pile, and then I'm going to rise up, and just like their whole movement and everything about them was very surreal and just completely at odds with everything we had seen up until that point.
Right. I even remember on the DKC Exposed video, which was my first exposure to Donkey Kong Country and actually would be for another year or so, except when I could convince, neighborhood friends to let me play the game that they had gotten sick of because they're monsters. Even in that, when Josh Wolf, the host, is sort of sitting around in a circle with some of the Treehouse testers, they're kind of describing the Rock Crocs to him, and I think they called them morphing rocks. Those guys are so cool, and then they describe them, and Josh Wolf acknowledges that they're terrifying, and we all know Josh Wolf is a man's man. Right.
He's also a wolf man.
Yeah, spooky, scary.
I don't know, like the Rock Crocs are, I think it's surprising that they never like revived the Rock Crocs, like especially in like Donkey Kong 64, where they were like playing heavily on the nostalgia for the first game, which was only 5 years later. But
DK64 had a really strange mix of returning baddies. It was you'd think they would have leaned more heavily on the Rogues Gallery from the originals instead of like walking dice.
Yeah, I mean, Donkey Kong 64, like the new enemies minus like Kasha and Cudgel, not Cudgel,
Casplat.
Casplat, thank you. Where did Cudgel come from? Casplat and Kasha, the new enemies besides them were kind of lame for the most part, I hate to say.
Yeah. I mean, they were, well, it probably makes sense that it was the DKC3 team, but they certainly felt much more like like an extension of Donkey Kong Country 3, where they're kind of more or less charting their own course rather than doing what Part 2 did so well, which is theming everything.
Yeah. But you would think Rock Crocs would have popped back up in there, but yeah, it was mostly a blend of Donkey Kong Country enemies, a couple DKC2 baddies, and then batshit insane new guys like Critter in a Sheet.
Critter in a Sheet. Is that what we wound up calling him?
There's various. I don't think we've actually settled on a name. I think Critter in a Sheet was maybe a Matt Corno one, but I don't think it's actually a critter. If you look at it, it doesn't have the body proportions of a critter. So,
yeah, we've done the research. We've lifted the sheets and sorted out what's underneath. So
another proposed name was KK Kremling. But
KK Kremling? Oh, because he's in a white sheet.
Yeah,
I got it.
I don't think that one would play though.
I think the skeleton Kremling that sort of looked like a robot skeleton Kremling from Creepy Castle was we decided to call him Crossbones with a K, right?
Wait, which I think is fitting. I like that one.
Yeah, that one's all right. It seems like a legit name,
It's
much
fun-
in the way that Kasha does.
It's funny though. There's such a bifurcation on the Donkey Kong 64 fanon names, because we'll have one version, Super Mario Wiki will have another, Donkey Kong Wiki will have a third version. It's like the fandom is at war trying to like lay their claim on the baddies' names. So
Yeah, at least we can all agree that Rodney is that fucking rabbit's name.
he's a hare, Chad. He's a hare.
That's just isn't a hare a kind of rabbit? I thought that was an umbrella term.
I was taken to task for calling him a rabbit once, so I'm never
jeez.
making that mistake again.
My apologies. So thank you for the call, ACZ. You want to take another?
Yeah, sure. Let's listen to more.
Hey guys, it's Malik once again, here to
Okay.
help spread some Halloween cheer with a fitting question for you today. So, one way I get into the swing of things around this time of year is by listening to spooky music. And Rareware games, they have a good amount of them. So, is there a composition from a DKU game that you think captures the spirit of spooky, haunting, Halloweeny? For me, it's got to be Count Batula's theme in the spooky chapter from Conker's Bad Fur Day. That track is just something else. It's one of my favorite tracks from Robin Beeland. I'd say that's one of his best works ever. Also, Hyle, you're right. The spooky chapter in Bad Fur Day, like when you're trying to get out of the mansion and the zombies are trying to get you at every turn, that is horrifying. I played that the other day at around midnight. I almost had myself a heart attack. But that's all for me this week, and yeah, I will talk to you guys next time. See ya!
Well,
All right,
call.
if I'm ever like going through his haunted house, I want Malik by my side, because man, he can make the most terrifying experiences just seem like a jolly good time.
Yeah, seriously. And I think in tribute to Malik, and mind you, I was doing this when the call came in. Let's take a listen. And I totally agree, by the way, Malik, that Count Bachelor, like this violin coming in, it's pretty evocative of the Halloween spirit. I wouldn't say spreads Halloween cheer necessarily. But yeah, I think that this is great, especially it sort of it gives you a fun time, and it's like, yeah, it's creepy, and it's, you know, vampiric, and certainly it has that sort of old world sensibility.
It's got that gothic charm. It sounds like a Hammer film.
Precisely, yeah. But it sort of, again, lulls you into a false sense of security for the next part of the spooky chapter, which is, that's where I'm stuck on Rare Replay, actually, is the gauntlet that you have to run to.
Are you stuck because it's challenging, or because you're scared?
I'm actually stuck because of the way the controls are configured.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I don't want to bitch too heavily about Conker's Bad Fur Day's controls, but it is like the identical problem to the way Jet Force Gemini was initially mapped. So it's really tough, especially jumping back and forth between those two for me. But
You would think by the time you get to spooky, though, your brain should have sorted it out. You know, it shouldn't be an issue.
well, not really, because I mean, when else do you have to run and gun? That's the first one.
Oh yeah, okay. I guess
You know, other than that, all you do is shoot your slingshot at the Scouser dung beetles,
true. Okay,
and
fair
then
point.
the vault.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's obviously we're gonna have to talk about the spooky chapter at some point. So now is as good a time as any.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, I've got the Bachelor music playing in the background here, and it's
Is it distracting?
a little bit. Yeah.
All right. I'll pause it.
All right. So this is probably my number one most terrifying moment in the Donkey Kong universe. And to answer your question, Malik, yeah, I'll go with this track. I think just hearing it makes my blood pressure rise a little bit. Like there's songs that I think of maybe before it, like the Creepy Castle, Mad Monster Mansion, and anything from Ghoulies, but those are all a little bit more fun, I think. There's not as much menace to any of those tracks. This one
Right.
is definitely just like, it's designed to unnerve you, or it's not even scary, but just combined with what's happening in the game itself, it definitely just doesn't do you any favors. And I've long made clear that I hate zombies. I hate like beyond just the trope and the genre itself being tired and hackneyed, and people claim it's more substantial than it actually is. It's not it's not profound in any way. But you see, this is a metaphor for consumerism. Well, this is a metaphor for the Vietnam War. Well, this zombie movie has something to say about I don't know, the class system in America. Fuck you.
Yeah. Fear the Walking Dead has something to say about running out of ideas.
Yeah, right. No, The Walking Dead is a libertarian fantasy. Nothing more. Wouldn't it be great if society crumbled, there was no government to help us, and we got to shoot people in the heads without any repercussions? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
It's the natural extension of John Galt's dreams.
Right, yeah. Except the trains aren't running on time anymore.
No.
Yeah, I hate zombies, but especially because, yeah, they do scare me. Like, I will give them that. Like, there's something just unnerving. I think it's like the uncanny valley thing where, you know, they're humans, but they're moving in an unnatural way. I think we all fear death to a certain degree. I definitely do. So dead bodies are not one of the things I like to think about. So to have it portrayed in such a over-the-top way, especially the concept that anybody can become a zombie in a zombie situation, or your loved ones might be zombies. It's not something. It's not something I find it to be an enjoyable way to spend my time. So
anyone's a zombie on Halloween.
Anyway, I don't like zombies, so. I've never played, a Resident Evil game as a result. I've never, I think Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare was a big turning point in my life that I actually sat down and attempted to play it. And not only attempted, but beat a game that was full of zombies. But Bad Fur Day was the first time I'd actually had to be confronted with it. And, wow. It was... You got there in the game before I did, because I was really taking my time with it, and you warned me. It was you said it was going to be a nightmare. Hate it. But you hated it too at the first time you played it. You said it was terrifying. It was frightening. It was scary.
Oh, totally. And of course, the first section when you're in the graveyard, I'm sure you did exactly what I did and what any common sense having person would do: get to high ground, jump on top of the headstone.
Yeah, I learned that from Obi-Wan Kenobi eventually, that, if you have the high ground, nothing can hurt you.
Oh, I thought you meant jumping on headstones to shoot zombies.
That actually would have made Attack of the Clones slightly better.
I don't like zombies. They're rough, coarse, and irritating. Irritating is probably the least pejorative thing you could say about zombies.
Yeah.
So I have two answers for this, depending on how you interpret Malik's question.
Okay.
I thought it was more in the spirit of spreading Halloween cheer, and I love that phrase. So in that sense, my favorite Halloween-y, spooky, not really spooky, but fun Halloween song would be the Zombie Pirates from Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here they are. And one of the reasons for that is because... I don't remember precisely when the trailer for Grabbed by the Ghoulies came out. It might have been E3 2013, like the summer before the October release.
Wait, but E3 2013.
Sorry, 2003.
Okay.
There's a 3 in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I specifically remember this song being attached to that first trailer, and so despite the fact that, the theme, of course, Grabbed by the Ghoulies, and the disco are much more representative of Grabbed by the Ghoulies, this is the one, for me, that's the song from Grabbed by the Ghoulies, and because I just pored over that trailer over and over and over. And yeah, every time I'm playing through Ghoulies and I get to that banquet hall when you first encounter the zombie pirates on a mass scale, and this song starts playing, I fucking love it. It reminds me of why I'm playing the game in the first place.
Well, yeah, and I think it really illustrates how Grant Kirkhope was just such a fucking beast with this game. Because not only does this like incorporate the general Ghoulies like sounds, but it invokes so much with so little. You know, you've got that kind of high seas flavor to it. You know, you definitely hear the pirates in there, but it's also just plays into the whole haunted house ethos as well. I mean, it's magnificent. I would say anything from Ghoulies really is just, especially that one. But I mean, I there's just so many like variations on that haunted house theme in Ghoulies that, yeah, if you're going for a fun Halloween instead of just a pants wetting, terrifying, bow evacuating kind of night, then yeah, I would go with anything from Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do this year on Halloween, because I've been a little busy in the lead up to the big day. So, Janelle and I don't really have costumes or anything like that, but I'm going to be playing a ton of Grabbed by the Ghoulies on Halloween.
Oh, yeah. I've already told Michelle I want to play Grabbed by the Ghoulies on Halloween. So,
well, at least she knows what she's getting into.
Yeah, no, I think she's looking forward to seeing it. She likes watching people play video games. I'm trying to get her...
I meant a lifetime with you.
Oh,
is she prepared for a yearly Grabbed by the Ghoulies playthrough on Halloween?
Well, that's what divorce lawyers are for, really. I mean,
oh, jeez, already with the divorce jokes.
I'm saying she'll leave me. I have no intention of leaving her.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Again, at least you're self-aware.
Yeah. But getting back to spooky real quick.
Yeah.
I love and hate the spooky chapter. It's I think the most memorable part of Conker's Bad Fur Day for me, even more than It's War, even more than the poop shit. It is just it stuck with me because of how, I think, wide awake I had to be to play. I mean, it was like, my hands were sweaty and glued tight to the N64 controller, and I was just super alert. But I also love that it incorporated Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie, with Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves, and I love how it based its aesthetic as far as the vampire stuff on that. And you've got this Dracula parody that explicitly fought in the Conquer equivalent to the Crusades, and you've got those suits of armor in the castle, and there's this medieval flair to it.
What I realized, I was thinking about the backstory to Conker's Bad Fur Day that we talked about previously, how it's this really complicated history with the Kulas of Konk, and it. Tell me if you realize this as well, but it was like an epiphany that I had. And I think I was sort of off the mark because the character's name is Batula, right?
Yeah, or Batula or Batula. I don't think we have a correct pronunciation.
Dracula, Batula. Yeah. But when you go behind his house into the hedge maze, there's that. What do you call it? Not a mausoleum. Is that what it's called? Basically a giant grave with a statue on it. But it says, it has a placard that says Count Konkula.
Yeah.
And seeing it spelled like that, I realized the last part of Konkula is Kula. So the Kulas of Konk, that's the Konkula line.
Holy shit.
Konkula. Yeah, right?
Well, I think there's definitely a connection there, yeah.
Yeah, and it even makes sense because he talks about, a war of long ago with the panthers and the squirrels. So
yeah, and we know he's Conker's ancestor, and
right. So I think we need to reconsider what we've been naming him, considering there's that grave in the back that says Konkula, and it says he was born 1776, and there's no death date, which, obviously that's a nod to the fact that he's still roaming the halls with his Gary Oldman hairdo.
Well, but the thing is, too, remember, Vlad Tepes, who Dracula is based on, he had multiple names as well, so he was Dracula, and there are a couple others. So, he can have multiple names to him. Batula could be just, or Konkula could be a title, and I don't know,
Well, Conkula's the one on his headstone, so I think it would be sort of like Count Batula is to the Great Mighty Pooh as Konkula is to Chucky Poo.
Yeah, but he prefers to be called Batula, where the Great Mighty Pooh, that was more of a description than anything. People just took that to be his name.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's his title.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the Great Mighty of... His name is Chucky. He's of the Pooh clan. But there's a long storied lineage of Pooh.
But no, I like. Have you seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, the early '90s?
I'm familiar with Bram Stoker's Dracula. Haven't seen it for a long time, but yes.
Okay, I mean it's a weird fever dream of a movie, and a lot of the casting was terrible in it. But
who directed? Was that Coppola that directed it? Francis
Ford Coppola, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that was one of the last movies he made before he just stopped caring.
Yeah, well, it would have been shortly after Godfather 3, wouldn't it?
Right, yeah. Which the only reason he made that was I think he was broke. So same reason.
Maybe if I kickstart my daughter's career, she'll be able to carry me through retirement.
No, it's basically the same reason George Harrison did the Beatles anthology, because he needed the money.
He needed something to put in his last will and testament.
Oh God! Have you? I'm not even gonna get into it with you.
Please, come on, go for it.
Did you see the Elvis one that fucking documentarian made?
Oh, this is the same one who did the last will and testament of George Harrison.
Yeah, Elvis Found Alive.
George Harrison impression. Oh, that was what it was called, Elvis Found Alive.
Yeah, have you seen it?
I have not. I've seen it on Netflix, but I have not clicked on it.
It's hilarious. You should watch it with Janelle, because it okay, well, basically what it is, it's basically a chance for the director to mix this hilarious he created this basic conspiracy theory out of cloth, like about Elvis faking his death and working, like he combines history with his own fevered right-wing delusions. So definitely check it out. You'll be cracking up numerous times.
All right, I'll take that as a hearty recommendation.
Oh, all of you at home, you should watch it. Elvis Found Alive. You're going to be in for a good time.
They're going to come back and I think counter that assessment.
No, I stand by that. It was one of the most enjoyable movies I've seen in the last 5 years.
Okay.
But I also like schlock. So, no, but the thing I liked about Bram Stoker's Dracula was it made a point to actually marry the historical Vlad the Impaler with Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. And I just love the imagery of that. Very gothic, very medieval. So I like that this is what Chris Seaver and crew borrowed for their interpretation of the Dracula mythos. And that part I love, and I love like all the backstory again with the Milk War allusions and whatnot. The whole dinner scene with Conquer that's basically lifted straight from Dracula. The children of the night. What beautiful music they make, what music they make. But yeah, then when he turns you into a bat and you're like putting the villagers in the meat grinder, boy, that was Conquer did some shit in that game,
yeah, but it might have been because he was compelled to, because he now has a bat brain, or at least a sort of, Conquer is seeing the world through the eyes of a bat, and maybe he was compelled as the servant of Batula to do that.
Yeah, I know. It's just weird, and I think this is we've gotten slightly more progressive about hardcore violence since 2000. This was the era of South Park humor where it's funny, he's killing all these people, but then when you actually
early South Park humor.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Scott Tenorman Must Die is held up as the greatest South Park episode of all time, and
but it's because it goes so ridiculously far, and it never goes that far again. That's why that episode is so great.
I don't like that episode. That crosses.
What?
It crosses the line in my brain where I can't find it funny. It's just
unbelievable.
Well, unbelievable, but it's also I could never I think this is one reason why I just hate South Park, because I can never find the character of Cartman entertaining in any capacity after that. Like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that ruined Eric Cartman for you?
It ruined the show for me. Like when I saw that episode, I was like,
Jesus.
"Oh, geez." And I have other issues with it, but this is not a soapbox for me to get on.
Man, I don't understand that. We're aligned in most pop culture fandoms, but this is one where we part company.
Yeah. Well, we're not. We're 85% of our Venn diagram is intersex, but we do have other corners where we don't share the same interest.
Watch Rick and Morty, Hyle. Watch it.
I liked Rick and Morty from what I saw. I'm a busy guy and I'm lazy, so two strikes against me.
So speaking of Bad Fur Day, and to answer the other half of my response to Malik, there's one song from Bad Fur Day that always kind of it sort of creeped me out, but maybe that's not the right phrase. It gave me a sense of existential dread. I'm gonna play it, and forgive me because I have to probably skip through a little bit. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, this. Basically, the end credits to Conker's Bad Fur Day. So after the gut punch that is Conker's,
it's true what they say. You never know what it is you have until it's gone.
And then there's just this little bitty kind of chimes over a wind and a thunderstorm. It's just the most desolate, depressing thing. And, the entire final cutscene up until this point was pretty gut-wrenching. I mean, it was fun to see the Matrix parody, but after that, I mean, the void talking with the programmer. But once it actually got to the emotional hook of the whole game, and then it just gave you this, it's not spooky, but you know what I'm trying to say? It's just like, especially as a kid, I think, what was it? Conquer 2001, would have been 16. This was really depressing. And I do remember, though, I played this song like on an endless loop during my angsty high school phase. But to this day, I think it's muted brilliance on Robin Beanland's part.
I actually laughed out loud during this part.
Really?
I thought, just because of the sheer audacity of ending the game on this, I thought it was just like the ballsiest thing I'd ever seen up until that point. And like, I was like, oh my God, this is like, it wasn't like, haha, this is hilarious, but I was like, oh my God, like, this is the sheer nerve to do this, to like, this game is still to this day remembered for poop jokes and
right.
its lewd humor. To get so to try to be so overtly profound in the last part of the game, which, I mean, look, the night portions of the game are my favorite. Like, that is like what Bad Fur Day is to me. Like, to the point where that's what we wanted to see from us. Any sequel is an extension of that versus going back to kind of humor.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, and I completely agree, but I think my initial reaction to that was to laugh, because I read it, even if it wasn't intended to be a joke, it was funny to me that they ended their M-rated cartoon squirrel game on such existential angst and grief.
It's funny. It's like all of a sudden they realize, like, oh, wait, we could make a statement with this, but it was too late to get the whole game into tonal sync with that.
Right. Which I think that does add up with the way they wrote Bad Fur Day, like a lot of things linked up, but tonally it definitely kind of went in a weird direction near the end.
Yeah, and I do like the direction that it went in, but it's whiplash, certainly, but it does have that nice divide of day and night.
Right,
so
right.
At least there's that.
Yeah. And
although I also felt that the whole grass is always greener, don't know what you have idea was almost a meta-textual commentary on the fact that the game is over. So I don't know, it sort of had multiple meanings for me, especially I enjoyed the game so much up until that point, and all of a sudden, like, I didn't realize that I was at the end part of the game until I got to the vault, and there was the Panther King. So, and then of course, you're not just gonna stop the game, walk away, and finish it some other day. It was just like all of a sudden, holy shit! I'm confronted with the end of this experience, and everything turned out terribly, and here's Conker telling me that he's miserable too. And it's just...
if it had come out like a year or so later, I'm sure a lot of people would read it as commentary on leaving Nintendo.
Yeah, they probably, yeah. It could also be seen as commentary for the Conker franchise as a whole, right? There's ketchup coming out of my nose.
Whoa! Oh, getting hot in here.
What am I referencing, JonTron? So, would you want to take another call?
Yes, please. Let's.
Yeah. Did my Mr.
Hello,
Subliminal?
Chad and Hyle. This is Karakong, sometimes from the forums. And first off, I'd like to say, good luck on the Patreon. I'll start donating as soon as I can, but I'm looking forward to all the great content you guys are going to do because of it. And I'm glad you guys are finally getting at least a little bit back for what you do. Secondly, you asked about the scariest moments from the DK universe. When I was a kid, I wasn't really all too scared about video games, or even TV for that matter. But when I was about 4 years old and going through Donkey Kong Country for the first time, I didn't really play it much back then. I was too young. But I liked to watch it. And every single time, my family got a game over, I had to run out of the room screaming. Like, maybe not that dramatically, but I hated it. I hated that game over screen. There was just something about it. It just... the way, I don't know if it was the music or the dark brooding look of DK and Diddy looking all beat up and roughed up, and it's just like, whoa, man, this game, they're beating those guys. They're not just jumping off the screen when they die. They're getting beat up. They're getting real roughed up. And that just bugged the crap out of me when I was a kid. It never sat well with me. Even as an adult, I wouldn't really say it scares me. I mean, I'm not a giant puss, but it's not exactly the most sunshine and rainbows game over screen. It's definitely one of the more graphic ones I've ever seen on any game ever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else has always just been kind of a more typical spooky. So the typical spooky stuff, that's just fun. Not really scary. But I mean, I like seeing it. It's just not scary. But that's all. Once again, good luck on the Patreon. Bye.
Thank you, Kara.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, and thanks for. Yeah, see, I told you, like, it just the DKC game over screen strikes a nerve with some people, and I don't know, like, I don't even think Carrie here really understood why. I mean, she gave some suggestions, and they make sense. I think we need to bring a child psychiatrist on the show to really help examine these issues. So that's really what we should have done ahead of time.
Yeah, we should just hire someone to basically set up shop in a sub-forum of the DK Vine forum and just take calls or take posts. I
actually think that would be a lucrative business, much more than this Patreon business. I guess that's a good interpretation of it, though, that, you know, in Mario games, you know, they just fall off the screen, and then it's just, you know, game over, and then you go back to the title screen. This actually shows
what was the game over like in Mario? Oh, was it?
Right.
Was that from the first one or from Mario World?
I don't even know if the first one had a theme
game
tune
over
to
screen.
The game. Well, if it had like a theme tune to the game over.
It's hard for me now because I mean I primarily played Super Mario World because I never had an NES as a kid, and like my only real major exposure to the original like the NES Mario's was through Mario All Stars. I had a cartridge that included Mario World in that. I played Mario World. I like the physics best on that. But now that I'm playing a lot of Mario Maker, I can't remember which one was which music came from which game because they're all kind of mashing it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mario Maker has ruined my memory
Yeah, well,
if it
like
wasn't already ruined.
all of Mario has become like homogenized to me. It just all blends together. I remember, I don't, especially like music, I don't remember what music's from what game.
Yeah. I do think it's impressive that Kara has a much stronger constitution than us, not being phased by the traditionally spooky bits.
Doesn't surprise me. I was a puss as a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
like I you know, I'm sure like Goosebumps books scared me. Like I read them, but I was like, oh my god, oh thank God that was just a dream.
It was always just a dream.
Yeah.
Or it was just their mother coming to the bedroom door to say, "Would you like to come down for dinner?"
Yeah. Suddenly he was blind. Next chapter. It turned out that the cat had like crawled on his face, and that's why he was blind. Like that's the thing
R.L.
that happened.
Stein was a genius among men.
Hey, yeah. Well, he's rolling in the royalties at this point.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't leaned so heavily on the notion, especially in the wake of this Goosebumps movie starring Jack Black, that much of the Goosebumps oeuvre was ghost written. I think that would be thematically appropriate.
You know, you say that, and you say you have the evidence to back it up, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
Okay, well here's my evidence.
there's no evidence anywhere to support this because I've researched this after the fact.
Okay.
And
well, this is okay. So it's circumstantial or anecdotal. But basically, I had a friend in college, a very close friend who I don't think would have lied to me, whose mother wrote a Goosebumps book. At least so he claimed.
yeah,
So,
I mean, it's possible that like maybe later on R.L. Stein became like James Patterson, where he came up with the ideas for the books and like basically had a team of authors bring them to life. Like he gave us synopsis.
Yeah, I know that, and that's exactly how he framed it.
But I mean, I've never seen an actual reference to that, and so I don't know. Maybe it was like later on in the series when nobody cared. It was like you know, egg monsters from Mars and shit like that. But no, I think that's a good point though that Kara had, that it's because we saw the results of your failure and it wasn't just glossed over, that maybe that's why it struck such a chord with so many kids.
Yeah, and again that, you know, the fact that they're so beat up and you see bruises, you know, you see bandages, it really makes you feel bad, and then there's that eerie music behind it.
I think it's funky Peruvian music. I don't see why it's eerie.
Pan flutes, guinea pigs. All right. That's the last of our calls. Thank you, everyone who dialed in, but we're not stopping yet. We've got a few other, you know, glaring, spooky elements of the DKU that we should discuss.
Yeah, so if you are a giant puss, leave the room. Well,
we're talking about cartoon monkeys.
So let's talk about Haunted Hall in Donkey Kong Country 2.
Ooh, yeah. So Cackle is not only a ghost, but a scary looking ghost. And I think it's multiple Cackles. Cackle is a drone, right?
Yeah, because his bandana changes every time a new segment of the track introduces a Cackle. It has a different colored bandana.
Oh, well, wouldn't that actually mean that Haunted Hall is populated by multiple individual pirate skeletons?
I think
because usually we define a drone as one that looks identical.
Yeah, I think that's. I can see it could definitely be read like that. Although, considering that it was never an issue up until you just said so, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always trying to cause trouble.
You are. Like, at least Rare gave us the names of all the ostriches in Donkey Kong Country 2 Game Boy Advance, so we didn't have to spend like days and weeks naming them. So yeah, thank you. We got Minogue out of that, so thank you, Rare. Thank you, Game Boy team. But
not to mention Rapido, everyone's second favorite ostrich racer.
What was it? M Basil or M like?
There was M Baza.
Baza, yeah, and then there was Beardy. Beardy was one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, so
good times.
Haunted Hall, and I mentioned this on Facebook last week. mentioned Haunted Hall on Facebook last week in reference to Cackle, because the thing that's like very striking about Cackle and kind of made this a scary level was you're used to the cartoon depictions of ghosts in games like this. Even up until this point, Donkey Kong Country 2 had cloaks, which, they're just basically big pirate coats that have a ghost in them.
But that was cool, though, that they were period costumes that they're wearing. Like, even the ghosts are all pirate themed.
Well, yeah,
it was a really cohesive thing.
It's the same coat essentially that crooks are wearing.
Right. Maybe cloaks are the crooks that you killed earlier in the game,
or crooks that died long ago. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like to think that the Kongs actually like overtly kill enemies unless it is explicitly referenced, like Crow.
Like Crow, I was gonna cite Crow
because then it becomes an Eric Cartman situation, and I have no time.
Stop.
So yeah, Haunted Hall though, like you're used to Booze and Mario, which are just these blobs, like not anything. Cartoony Casper, the Friendly Ghost type shit, where it's very like if ghosts were real, they would not look like what those are. But here we have like Haunted Hall. You've got like realistic skeletons. I mean, they're crocodile men, but nonetheless, they're still like supremely like it's actually pretty frightening for a kid's game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially considering that you're not only are you hurtling forward and I always found the on-rails DKC stages to be more stressful than the standard fare, just because you're not in control of your own momentum.
Oh, absolutely.
But they also introduce the plus and minus barrel mechanic, and they introduce some batshit crazy bonus levels. Like I swear it took me ages to figure out that you have to jump on top of the entrance to one of the bonus levels, and when you do, that one introduces yet another insane mechanic.
Where you go backwards.
You go backwards. You go all the way up, and then it takes you backwards. But what I love about that is that it makes sense because you're backing out and then going into the next bonus level.
Yeah.
It was really cool, but so fucking stressful. And on top of all those things, you have this terrifying ghost pirate crocodile chasing you.
Oh yeah, and it's just that chase, and then the dread you felt when you accidentally hit a minus barrel. That gets me. Like, oh no, I hit a minus barrel. Will I have enough time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually it's okay if it just happens once until the end, but to me it always had like a compounding effect. Anytime I would hit one, it just, I don't know if it ruined my confidence or just like stressed me out too much, but I would start to make really stupid mistakes and usually kill myself.
Oh, absolutely.
It was like this snowballing shit at games thing.
Yeah, you pretty much had to have a perfect run most times just for your own confidence and momentum.
Yeah.
Cackle definitely one of the greats. Moving on to Donkey Kong 64. We think of that as the more cartoony, slapsticky Donkey Kong game, but there's a lot of moody elements to that game, and I think if you're going to go with like actual like frightening moments, there's one that takes the cake, takes the banana cake.
You talking about Crosshairs?
Talking about Crosshairs. Talking about Angry Aztec.
Yeah. This is, if you don't know Crosshairs, this is yet another character that we've sort of given a name for lack of any others on Rare's part. But this is the guy, when you go into certain temples in Angry Aztec, I think it's after you get your golden banana.
It's like Indiana Jones, where you get the treasure and then the trap springs.
Right, and the trap springs by way of this giant yellow crosshairs coming down on the screen, as if the entire game has been the first person view of some unseen demonic entity, and this voice yells at you, "Get out! Get out!"
Yeah.
Holy
fuck!
And then the timer starts ticking. Beep, 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 beep. And you're like scrambling, you're fucking running your ass off because you didn't realize that you needed to clear a path around all those clobbers to get back to the entrance.
And usually wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a maze, but it was definitely. It wasn't just a linear path to get out.
Right. That was terrifying, and yet not just the fact that you're introduced to the whole concept of this temple with "get out." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the voice that really sold that, and I mean, God, that just I can't imagine because for us we were older when we played Donkey Kong 64, but for the generation that came in with that game, where that was like one of their earliest games, their entry to not only the Donkey Kong universe but to video games. Can you imagine the terror that would have created?
Not only that, I can imagine the strange expectations that it would form in people's minds about what constitutes a good 3D platform.
Oh no!
Oh,
I was hoping to avoid our controversial opinions on Donkey Kong 64. As I said on our Spotlight episodes, there's a lot of good bits in Donkey Kong 64. The problem is the good bits are floating in less than great bits.
Yeah, it's like that famous Roger Ebert review of Pearl Harbor where he said it was a 2-hour movie crammed into 3 hours.
Yeah.
I sort of feel that way about DK64.
Yeah, it was not. You could tell Greg Mayles wasn't involved with that one, and that's
Right.
not a knock towards the Donkey Kong 64 team because they made Donkey Kong Country 3, and I love that. But there was definitely not that.
It felt. I mean, the fairest thing we can say is that it felt rushed, and that's probably because it was.
I don't know if I think it felt rushed. I felt like
Really?
it lacked a coherent vision for what the game should be.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean. It felt cobbled together.
If anything, I don't know. Maybe if it was more rushed, it would have been more streamlined. I felt like they had too much time to add too much stuff, and they didn't have any like actual like thing to say about the game. It was just, we're making a Donkey Kong game, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has it. You do feel like there's a sense of obligation, but also I think that knowing a little bit of the history of DK64 about, we heard on Twitter a while back from, who was it, Mark Stevenson, or so one of the Platonic guys, that there was like this sort of almost 2.5D kind of linear style. It seems like DK64 went through so many permutations.
Well, we first knew about that, or we first knew a little bit about that from Lee Loveday on Scribes, where he said, they tried to replicate,
Right.
Donkey Kong Country style gameplay, and it never really worked in 3D, or 3D at the time,
So I think they might have spent a lot of time, working on those proofs of concept, and then when it came to, Nintendo said, "Hey, are you gonna make your big 3D Donkey Kong game anytime soon?" They had to do something.
Yeah.
Banjo was popular.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's literally no way to know.
I'm sure there is. Just don't have a way to know at the moment while recording this podcast. I'm sure we could
Don't step on my catchphrase, Hyle.
I'm sure we could break into Twycross and dig through some filing cabinets and find our answers. We could hack their computers. Sure, we could go through all sorts of actions and scenarios where we inject gas into their studio, knock everybody out.
Literally no way to know.
Anyway, later on in Donkey Kong 64, there actually is the spooky world in Creepy Castle. Yeah, you're writing notes to me right now. What about Mad Monster Mansion?
Yes. Thank you for reading off my show notes edits.
The reason I didn't go with Mad Monster Mansion in any of this is I didn't find any of it to be legitimately scary.
Okay, but it's Halloween-y.
It's Halloween-y, but we're talking about fear. We're not talking about Halloween-y fun.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's fair. You didn't think that the haunted satanic church was scary?
Only if you phrase it like that. There's nothing in the game that actually explicitly said this is satanic.
Oh yeah, that's just how we always used to phrase it on DK Vine.
Well, that's how we justify why Gruntilda has a church in the first place. Like, why would she have a church there? Oh, because she's a bride of Satan.
Yeah, that's how she fell from grace. Her and her sisters.
Anyway,
It's basic. I would love to see a Banjo-Kazooie prequel that played out like the Witches of Eastwick with Jack Nicholson like having sex with all of them.
I just want to see Jack Nicholson in the Donkey Kong Universe game, like voicing a character. Can you imagine? Like he would be a good voice for like Snide, I think.
Hey, donkey, you didn't bring enough yellow blueprints. I'm gonna be watching the Lakers.
The Banana Bowl is on later.
Yeah.
That's
Also my Christian Slater impression.
Yeah. I for a while I had a theory that like Christian.
They're the same person?
Yeah. Like
No one's ever seen them in the same room at the same time.
Christian Slater is just Jack Nicholson with a lot of prosthetics.
Yeah, that's why he's so good at golfing.
So I don't have anything to say about Mad Monster Mansion. It was a spooky Halloween world, one of the greats, but it
All right.
like it was not like I don't know. Were you ever like frightened during it? I wasn't.
No, it was just spreading Halloween cheer.
Yeah, even though we played Banjo-Kazooie in the summer, so I mean, it was a little premature for that.
Hey, that made Freeze Easy Peak no less significant.
Yeah, that's why I don't consider Freeze Easy Peak to be a Christmas world. Like, even though it explicitly isn't. Yeah, I don't associate Freeze Easy Peak with Christmas. I associate it.
You're insane.
As
You're a crazy person.
As a weird like summer dream of Christmas. But when it's Christmas time, I'm thinking Diddy Kong Racing.
All right, what do you think? How does your mind associate the winter portion of Click Clock Wood? Is that a weird summer version of a winter themed subworld? Like,
Well, Click Clock Wood has all 4 seasons. I mean,
right? But you played it in the summer.
Yeah, but it's a glimpse into the future.
Okay.
Look, my mind associates a game primarily with the season that I played it in.
Okay,
that's
fair
not.
enough.
I mean, that's not like a applicable fully. Like, when it's summer, I'm thinking a lot of Dunk Dunk Country games. But like for some reason, Freeze Easy Peak, I don't associate it at Christmas time. Even though we do celebrate it at Christmas time. When it's Christmas, I'm thinking Diddy Kong Racing. I'm thinking some other worlds, but not Freeze Easy Peak. That's like
We really need to get that child psychiatrist on the forum. There are some deep-seated neuroses here that need unpacking.
it's because my uncle touched me.
God damn it! I almost spat on my recording equipment. So speaking of Halloween-themed worlds that aren't scary at all, you were about to talk about Creepy Castle?
Well, okay. Creepy Castle is another fun time E-rated Halloween-y romp, but I think it's more effective at least approaching fear than Mad Monster Mansion was. And Mad Monster Mansion wasn't trying to be legitimately scary, so I'm not saying that's a fault. But I think Creepy Castle definitely had some elements that were I don't want to say even unnerving, but definitely might have been like, whoa, that's kind of mildly creepy.
Yeah, I think the crypt in Creepy Castle was genuinely unnerving.
Keep in mind, this was about 15 months before Bad Fur Day. So, like we didn't have the whole zombies roaming Batulas/Conculas castle. We didn't have that experience yet. So the moans in the crypt, and there were like these nondescript moans coming from nowhere in particular, but it was both disturbing. I mean, like for the both of us, we commented at the time during the era that we gave Donkey Kong 64 perfect reviews on DK Vine, saying it was the greatest game of all time, and IGN could go stick it up their ass for only giving it something at like what was it, like a 9.0.
Yeah. They gave it. It was between 9 and 10. They gave it a very good score, but not good enough for us.
And this was us. Like I can see what I can see why Gamergate like is a thing.
Wait.
No, because we were stupid shits back then, and we were like, it didn't get a perfect score. Ethics in game journalism. Pushing up our glasses.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I was like, wait, how were we in any way misogynistic toward Anita Sarkeesian? I don't.
I'm talking about the other the so-called motivation for that.
The games journalism is corrupt. as opposed to just a stupid concept.
Yes. But we definitely wallowed in that mindset at the time, and occasionally it gets frustrating when clearly like things like Tropical Freeze get slandered by certain media outlets for no reason other than what it's not. And but that's besides the point. Yeah, we were pissed off that IGN didn't give it a perfect score when, oh my god, it was too generous towards the game.
They gave Ocarina of Time a perfect score, and Donkey Kong 64 is clearly superior.
You see, but when you're a kid, it's all about that competition. I mean, we've grown out of it to an extent, but every now and then we definitely feel home team pride for our series. I mean,
yeah.
So
Nintendo wins no matter what. They're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, we'll see how much they win with Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Good lord. Oh. Too soon.
Yeah,
too soon.
Nintendo's November looks pretty bleak.
Yeah. It's. I think even JFK had a better November than Nintendo's going to.
Oh God. What do you think about the ballroom, Hyle?
Well, okay, the crypt. Do you have anything to add about the crypt?
And I don't mean the room that JFK met Marilyn Monroe in.
Oh, happy birthday, Mr. President. No.
Yeah, I think that the ballroom was cool, not only because
you don't have anything to add about the crypt.
No, it was creepy. It had like
it was a creepy castle.
Sounds.
Yeah, there's a crypt in the creepy castle.
I don't know. What do you have to add about the crypt?
No, I remember playing it late at night and having to. I remember having to turn off the N64 because it was messing with my head.
Really? It got under your skin to that degree.
Yeah, because you just hear the. I don't even remember exactly how the moans went. It was just like. It sounded like wandering through a nursing home in the wing, like the hallway of the nursing home for the patients with dementia. That's what
I think it was. In actuality, it was probably just Grant Kirkhope recording himself before his morning coffee.
Yeah, probably, but he's a very effective guy, that Grant Kirkhope. The ballroom wasn't creepy, but it was also weirdly atmospheric, especially for a game that, like I said, Donkey Kong 64 was this weird mixture of incredibly like moody atmosphere to like just like flat, lifeless worlds that like had nothing really going on.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's too harsh. Maybe that I'm just viewing like Jungle Japes versus like some of the like really effective worlds like Gloomy Galleon. But
no, even Gloomy Galleon is kind of flat and lifeless when you really look at it. It's a lot of big open empty spaces, which I know is a criticism leveled toward Banjo-Tooie, but I don't think it's as pronounced as the problem is in DK64.
Banjo-Tooie, at least, like they played with color more. Like, I don't know, Banjo-Tooie had a vibrancy to it that Donkey Kong 64. Donkey Kong 64 felt flat in a lot of areas, and I love like the lighting effects. I love a lot of the stuff they did with it, but
and Banjo-Tooie had good writing, and that made you care about the characters and worlds, whereas DK64 not so much.
They were all confused.
Yeah, they were all confused and would introduce the concept of of key characters and family members just having died at some point in the past. It's just like it was so lazy, cobbled together.
I don't know. I think that's one of the classic lines of Donkey Kong 64 where Wrinkly says, I passed away after Donkey Kong Country 3. You're like,
yes,
oh.
It's a classic line because it's so terrible.
But what's this? I mean, like, I think it's terrible on purpose. Like, I will defend that.
Really?
Look, it's like we can't pick and choose our battles here. Like, if we're gonna say like Bad Fur Day was so brilliant for being tonally inconsistent, then yeah, Donkey Kong 64. We I don't know.
No. Bad Fur Day had a tonal switch, but it wasn't tonally inconsistent. There was day and there was night, and that was a pretty clear dividing line.
But you refer to it as whiplash, though.
Yeah, but I think that's an intentional whiplash. I mean, I don't feel like it was an accident. Whereas I could easily picture whoever. Well, we gotta let Wrinkly introduce herself. Okay, so she's a ghost now. She died. When did she die? She was. What game was she alive? Donkey Kong Country 3. Okay, so she died sometime since Donkey Kong Country 3. Just put that as like placeholder text.
Oh, okay.
We've been writing Lobo Destroyo. You know all about how, sometimes you just put placeholder text when you don't have a good idea. That's what that line reads like to me.
No, I think that line is pure brilliance. And one more thing on the Bad Fur Day Tonal Whiplash. I think it was never more stark than when you went from It's War and Conker was, pontificating on the horrors of sending young men to kill, basically. And then
war is a terrible thing,
And then he meets back up with Barry and they decide to slaughter bank guards to get rich.
Okay.
That's the tonal whiplash I'm referring to.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's owing to the improvisational nature of Bad Fur Day's plot.
Yes. And the need to get a Matrix parody in there because it was 2001. But I don't know.
Yeah, they can't all be Lost in Space and Godzilla parodies.
So the ballroom though was very atmospheric, and I'm not even sure what it was trying to be, but it was it was like the ghost of a former party was haunting the ballroom, like some sort of like turn of the century affair, like fancy dress. And you'd
have like all these laughs, like they're whooping it up, but like in this eerie way.
It's like this aristocratic laughter, like
yeah.
So,
and also, wasn't the hanging above the ballroom was a portrait of Captain K. Rool? I think, wasn't there?
Well, there were a lot of portraits of Captain K. Rool throughout the Creepy Castles. So I don't remember if there was one in the ballroom. I'm sure.
I remember that in the ballroom, that was one of the areas in which you had Diddy's jetpacks, and I want to say I remember flying up and like shooting peanut pop guns obsessively at Captain K. Rool's portrait.
You thought you were going to unlock stop and swap that way.
I did. There was that pre-release screenshot of the Banjo-Kazooie refrigerator in DK's treehouse. At some point, that key was going to come out, and I was going to find it.
Yeah. No, that was a freezer that they were going to keep the ice key in. Makes sense. No, so the ballroom, again, it was not as unnerving as the crypt, but it was definitely this kind of slightly chilling moment, I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about Fearbringers. But going back to Bad Fur Day and going back to It's War. Now, this is not supernatural themed in any way, but I think this was definitely one of the scariest segments of Conker. Would you agree?
Yeah, especially the Saving Private Ryan opening, which
God.
Louise O'Connor said, she was an animator, so she spent a lot of time animating squirrels getting shot, getting their limbs blown off, and said that she had nightmares about it as they were working on that section of the game.
Well, especially after going from 12 Tales to Bad Fur Day. I mean, holy shit.
Right. Yeah, there's no amount of like career preparation that can steal your nerves for that.
Yeah, it's like turning Bible study into a fucking Eyes Wide Shut orgy. Just like, all right, everybody, put down the good book. Put down the good book, and I don't know, start sucking dick. I don't know what you would say in that situation.
You're the one that has a storied history with slagging off the Bible, so I was just gonna leave you to that.
Oh yeah, I'm the one.
What? Oh, you're the one who we were like hemorrhaging Facebook followers because of your joke about the that passage about when I became a man I put away childish things, and you wanted no part of that.
Yeah, we hemorrhaged Facebook followers, which was like we lost 5 people or something. Yeah, it was catastrophic.
Well, the number went down.
Yeah, it's gone up dramatically since then, so I'm not too concerned. No, but it's war. Definitely. It made me feel like I was in war, which shows how much of a sheltered puss I am. But it was definitely like, again, I don't play Call of Duty games. I don't play like these military simulators. So Bad Fur Day was really the only exposure I've ever had to this archetype.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that it's just it's scary in the way that war in general is terrifying.
But then you get into the corridors and like the inside portions, and then it becomes a straight up horror movie because the teddies were very, very scary in that game.
Their voices, that kind of just garbled gibberish was really creepy.
And there were a lot of jump scares. I mean, they would jump out at you from corners.
Oh, you're right. They would, wouldn't they? Like, there'd be crates, and then all of a sudden, someone's firing a machine gun at you. And yeah, it's strange. Like, there was nothing really supernatural, but yeah, that section was really stressful.
I mean, after the zombie thing, I was toughened up, so I could handle it. I think I got through It's War, in a matter of an hour or two. So I never had to.
I remember It's War being a really long chapter.
It was, but I remember playing it in one day.
Wow.
Which it didn't break me. So I think the zombie portion in Bachelor's Castle really made a man out of me.
I remember the sense of relief I had when I realized, walking up to the little girl that, oh, this is the boss. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
At least I can move on to something else. Not that the It's War chapter was bad, but just that I have a hard time playing games that are just at their core stressful, and thankfully at its core that's not Conquer, but that's certainly fundamental to It's War. And so, like, I've always played games to kind of relax, to lose myself in a world, to have a good time, albeit a challenging time, but I was stressed the fuck out playing It's War.
Well, really, when you look at, like, both Spooky and It's War, one thing that attracts us to the Donkey Kong universe is the sense of adventure and exploration and charting the unknown course. And those two chapters are more about survival, running the gauntlet. And I think that's kind of new for us, or it was new for us at the time, because we weren't used to that in Donkey Kong Universe games.
Yeah, I would even say that idea of running the gauntlet, that's the same way that, way later titles in the DKU would be scary. Like, in Returns, you had Muncher Marathon, and regardless of whether or not you had a spider phobia, you were fleeing for your life. And it's sort of similar to Haunted Hall, where it's scary partially because it's not that you have no control, but you have less control than you're used to, and you have to keep moving forward at all costs.
Yeah.
Same thing with Tropical Freeze on Irate 8. When all of a sudden Squidicus is after you, especially that last section.
Yeah, so let's really quick talk about the retro games and Returns and Tropical Freeze. Muncher Marathon, Irate 8, both actually similar concepts when you really examine them. But those are like two of the more modern versions of Fearbringers in the Donkey Kong universe. If you didn't have a spider phobia before Muncher Marathon, you could quickly develop one. And I know beloved DK Vine forum member Carla Gurney just hates spiders. Like, she actually doesn't like Squidder, one of the most beloved animal buddies in existence, because of her anti-spider mindset. But so Muncher Marathon, I think, broke her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that forum thread when Returns came out that she noped the fuck out of there.
Yeah, and really, it is terrifying. I mean, a bunch of spider eggs, like thousands of spider eggs, hatch on you and descend upon you. It's something out of like one of those scary stories they tell in dark books that you had as a kid in the school library with like the.
I remember the one where the spider. I remember that from that exact franchise. There was a scary story you tell in the dark where a spider laid eggs in someone's face, and then a whole bunch of them. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah. I mean, it was all just like basically retold folklore for kids, but with the most pants-shittingly terrifying illustrations. Like illustrations
those black and white ones.
These illustrations were not okay. Like they would straight up traumatize you. And I mean, it was a rite of passage in childhood. I mean, I'm not like saying, I'm not being, think of the children. But they scared us. They were awful. And our life, like our teachers would read these stories to us in class, and you would just be like, no.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is this? A grim fairy tale? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why is everyone getting devoured and mutilated?
So yeah.
I want to read Goosebumps.
So I'm not really like scared of nature in any capacity. It's like things that are unnatural that unnerve me. But yeah, I think that's just owing to the fact that, nature is my sanctuary. I love going out into the forest and just, spending several hours hiking or just being alone. But
some of your best friends are spiders.
Yeah, exactly. But if I were in a situation like this, a completely implausible situation where thousands of spider eggs had hatched and were swarming me, yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, and what's unequivocally, it would suck. What's worse is the fact that when you start the stage, there are these like weird jelly ball caviar looking things, and you don't realize until you've bounced on top of them to get past that area that those are the eggs that are now hatching.
Yeah, it's a level that makes you want to take a shower afterwards. Like, strip off your clothing, burn it, get a shower, check yourself, give yourself an enema just to be sure.
and so I wouldn't say that Squidicus is creepy in the same way that thousands and thousands of baby spiders are, but it's still just that sense of keep moving forward or you will fucking die.
Well, Squidicus, I think, especially like not so much in Donkey Kong Country Returns, and his appearance there, but his surprise reappearance in Tropical Freeze, definitely. Like, a lot of people have a phobia of the ocean and like deep water because not knowing what's underneath you, it like messes with their heads. And
yeah,
I don't necessarily share this, but I can see how this is a phobia, how this is a
really
thing.
You have no problem. Like, if you were, let's say, deep sea fishing, which I know you would never go fishing, but you were out in the middle of the ocean for some reason. You wanted to go to international waters. I don't know why. You would be perfectly comfortable floating on your back in the middle of the ocean.
I would be comfortable in the boat.
Okay. I'm with you there. It's just, to me, it's I wouldn't be able to shake the mental image of a creature that's essentially a cylinder with teeth at one end just swimming straight up and pulling me down.
Yeah, see, I don't find Jaws to be a scary movie. Everybody says that's one of the most terrifying films ever made. It doesn't scare me one bit. I see it as an adventure movie. So I'm not really like, it's not something I'm ever scared about. When I'm swimming in the ocean, I'm not thinking, what if a shark gets me? So I don't know, like, but I guess if I really went out of my way to think about it, yeah, it would unnerve me. Like I said, like,
well, let's not go out of our way to think about things. This is a podcast after all.
Natural things like again, sharks and whatnot don't scare me.
Okay,
but I think it's like, it's almost Lovecraftian. You're underwater and you're swimming along, and like for the first half of the level, like there's no indication that anything is like there's gonna be this shift. It's just a straight up like swimming platforming stage, and then halfway through, suddenly Squidicus breaks away the wall underwater, and there he is, and all of a sudden it's a chase.
Remember me, bitches?
And what's worse is you can't stay still for too long because he's shitting a bunch of ink.
I don't think that's quite how ink works mechanically, but sure.
Well, he's not literally shitting, but
cephalopod diarrhea.
Yeah. And then like there's small like reprieves where he's not chasing you, but then you can see his eye like through holes in like the coral.
Mm-hmm. And he's like he's sticking his tentacles out onto the stage from behind, and his tentacles all have like spikes all over them. Yeah, and you still have to keep moving because that ink keeps rising. That's the point at which I can't get past hard mode on Tropical Freeze.
Oh yeah. That is, I knew when I learned about the hard mode in Tropical Freeze. Well, I don't know how I'm doing irate 8. That's for fucking sure. That's
yeah.
God. Yeah. That was just I think like, I don't know, scary, but definitely stressful part of Tropical Freeze. And again, same basic principle as Muncher Marathon, where like the whole screen is filling up and you've got this threat chasing you.
Yeah.
So I guess we should talk about Ghoulies a little bit. I mean, we already did a spotlight on it 2 years ago, but
it's not scary.
No, except for one element.
Uh-huh.
Aha, and you know what I'm talking about, and I know Janelle knows what I'm talking about because
yeah. Now to be fair, the super scary shocks, they're surprising. They're obviously not scary because
they're jump scares, but you know
Right.
they're coming if you actually pay attention. If you know the ins and outs of the game, you'll know you'll usually know when one's coming. Either you'll hear a laughter if it's the hand underneath the ground. There's like a
yeah, that laughter though is terrifying.
It is, but you know it's coming. But you can also just get a sense for maybe 60% of the time you can get a sense for when one's about to happen. But they're jump scares. They're screamers in decade-old internet parlance.
Right.
But yeah, it's the Reaper. The fucking Reaper. And the Reaper himself, he's mostly comical. He's almost played like the Reaper to make our second Bill and Ted reference of the day, Bogus Journey, where, he plays his, he's like a guitar strumming Reaper,
You may be a king or a lowly street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper.
And then he ducks and he swings it. And,
yeah. I think we're both in agreement that Bogus Journey is the more interesting and indeed superior Bill and Ted film.
Yeah, this is where our Venn diagram definitely matches up, and I think it's interesting because our favorite Indiana Jones movie, Temple of Doom. Favorite Bill and Ted, absolutely Bogus Journey. Favorite Back to the Future, I'm guessing Part 2. Oh,
Part
really?
2 is the more fun Back to the Future.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
I think Part 1 is...
No, Part 1 is the better made movie, but
yes,
Part 2 is the more interesting movie.
It's the more interesting plot-wise. Part 3 is the more interesting character-wise.
Yeah. Each of them has something different to say.
Right. So it's hard to say which is superior.
The one I would probably rewatch out of all of them though is number 2 because it has all these fun plot bits going on, and it's the one that really plays with the concept of time travel according to that series rules.
Yeah, and also sort of ruins those a little bit, but yeah. Well, there's that whole bit where how did old Biff get back from the 50s? Because if he had already changed the past.
Because changing time, there's a ripple effect. He changed the past, but it hadn't reached the future yet. He was still able to reach the future.
Okay, and I know that that's the intended explanation because there's a deleted scene on the DVDs that shows old Biff come back to the future and then disappear. But he needed to do that to get the DeLorean back to
right. But
even in
the first one, his siblings didn't disappear immediately. They slowly faded from the photograph. So it definitely took a couple days for history to be undone or the future to be undone.
I thought the idea was that the worse and worse Crispin Glover and Leah Thompson's relationship got as they were teenagers, the faster and faster that disappearance happened. So it was like a probability thing.
I'm sure that was the intention until they made the sequel. I don't know.
Yeah, because when Marty is playing the guitar and all of a sudden his hand starts going invisible, isn't that a direct result of that little shit-eating grin ginger kid pulling away Leah Thompson?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of an immediate result, isn't it?
I guess I don't know. The point is, we usually go for the movies that are more maligned from the fan base perspective. Like Indiana Jones, it kind of boils my blood every time I see it referenced as the one of the bad ones. Like no, it's fine. Like what is your problem with the Indiana Jones except the racism? I can see
the racism,
but that's not what people's problem is. They have Willie Scott is annoying. Oh, Short Round is annoying. And fuck you if you say Short Round is annoying. He's awesome.
Willie Scott is annoying, but I think intentionally so.
That's the point.
She's the anti-Marion Ravenwood.
Right. She's a 1930s damsel in distress, and that's the point. But goddamn Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, it's just it's the most batshit crazy of the original three, but in a good way. It's the most that clearly invokes the serials it's homaging. So
right.
Anyway,
so the Reaper is scary.
So the Reaper is very scary, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is also the best Bill and Ted. So check that out. Anyway, I love when they're playing the Kiss cover of the Argent song "God Gave Rock and Roll to Us," and they show like all like the magazine articles and covers of like Bill and Ted's Rise to Stardom.
Wild stallions taking over the world, basically.
Yeah, and then like there's this one aside, like I think it's Sports Illustrated, where the Grim Reaper wins the Indianapolis 500 on foot.
Because that's what Death would do if he just had run of the world.
Anyway, yeah, so the Reaper's comical for the most part and grabbed by the Ghoulies, but it doesn't really play that way for when he appears.
Right, yeah, it's got all of a sudden the sound drops and you know you done fucked up, son, even if you don't immediately see the Reaper, because he always spawns at the exit. So he's already blocking your way out of the stage. But when the music disappears, it's replaced by like this weird like inhalation of air, kind of like
again, probably just Grant Kirkhope before his coffee.
Right.
Or maybe
he's probably a tea drinker.
Yeah, or maybe Grant Kirkhope after eating Mexican food.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. So yeah, anyway, another really cool effect that they did with the Reaper that contributed to this unnerving sense that you're being haunted by death is how everything surrounding him was completely desaturated.
Yeah. It would become black and white. He would like literally drain the color, the life out of anything he touched.
Yeah, and even anything that was in proximity to him. And also, it was really cool, the fact, and, Rare just put up this week that Making of Grab by the Ghoulies video. Did you see it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I liked it. I commented on it. You're welcome, Rare. There's a plug for you.
They're doing very well, thanks to us. No, they mentioned the fact that, they referred to the Reaper as Junior internally, which I thought was kind of funny, and I wonder if that has any implications to Greg. We've thought about this before.
No. He called him Junior because that was the first character he designed at Rare.
Oh, was that it? Okay,
yeah.
That was that James Thomas? Or...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Tom Jane.
He just wants his kids back. But no, I thought it was interesting that they accidentally stumbled upon this idea that the Reaper could kill the other Ghoulies.
Yeah,
just because they were coded the same way. Right.
It was just the luck of the draw in the game's physics, and they liked it. And they said, "Oh, we can use this actually for some of the challenges." And
it also, though, it gave the Reaper a larger sense of menace to me, that nothing is safe, not even his fellow Ghoulies.
No, because I always viewed the Ghoulie or the Reaper as he wasn't a Ghoulie in the sense that all the other characters in Ghoulhaven Hall he was an outsider coming in, drawn by all the undead anarchy of the mansion, and willing to like put an end to it.
Thanks, Dr. Crackpot.
But yeah, I mean, being in the same room as the Reaper, it's very, very stressful, because you've got like this, like, again, the music drops completely and it just is replaced by the like, and then just kind of this is like almost a wind effect, right?
Yeah, and for some reason I always hear him saying "fuck," but I know he's not.
Right.
Fuck.
And you hear like the chimes, the boom, boom.
Oh, yeah, like the
bell tolls for thee, yeah.
For thee, right? For whom So it's really creepy anytime he comes in, and despite usually it's a penalty for fucking up a challenge, but always it's a penalty. But
you can still complete the room though. You just have to evade the Reaper and be smart about it.
Right, yeah, but there's actually one room, the aforementioned Crackpot's laboratory, in which you're required to bring out the Reaper.
Yeah, because you've got to kill the vampire in the coffin who has the key, and you don't have the garlic shooter. You don't have old Edna, so you've got to get the Reaper to touch the vampire, and then you've got to evade the Reaper and get the hell out of there and avoid the Jesse and Clydes and fuck that room.
Yeah, and God help you if all of a sudden, like, a Jesse and Clyde throws you into one of those those glass tubes that
With the
happens
worms?
to contain an exploding worm that will explode and open up all the other tubes.
It just dawned on me the other day that those glass tubes are where the worms are made.
Oh yeah, I guess they would be, wouldn't they? That's
Yeah.
that's his lab.
Yeah, I mean that's where all the ghoulies are made, except for like the clearly human ghoulies, like the hunchback or warlock. But yeah,
Mm-hmm. And the hunchback is a singular character as well.
so is the warlock. Yeah,
Is he really? There are never multiple warlocks, are
yeah,
there?
he's like the hunchback. He appears in a few rooms, but only
Mm-hmm.
by himself. Yeah,
Good point. Yeah, and yeah, they're part and parcel with Gwyneth von Ghoul.
that's right. Yeah. So definitely ghoulies is never scary. Even like the zombies and ghoulies are always just comical, but the Reaper definitely. If you want some scares this Halloween night, put on Grab by the Ghoulies. Run out and buy Rare Replay first of all if you don't have it.
It's only $30.
It's only $30, and the Xbox One is only $300 something. I don't know. But play Grab by the Ghoulies and screw up some challenges. Bring the Reaper into the mix, and you'll have a good scary time.
Yeah.
Now, I want to wrap up this episode on some sort of grand unifying statement about fear and human nature, really. But I don't know how to do that. But so instead, what do you think really makes either a frightening game or what makes a game frightening? Like two different things, two different concepts there. But I mean, I know like games are kind of like wish fulfillment. We're living vicariously through this little avatar running around the screen, having these adventures that we can't have in real life. Is it just that being intruded upon, like something like suddenly it stops becoming fun and it becomes something that would be mortifying in reality? Is that what makes something scary?
There are different kinds of fear, and I think we touched upon a few different varieties. There are some in which the fear is derived from a sense of momentum that's outside your control. You just have to keep hurtling forward, and I guess that's scary in the same way the turbo tunnel from Battletoads is scary, which is to say not very, but I do think that there's something to considering that a type of fear. Then there's the sort that kind of gets under your skin in a very primal way, and that's the scary that you feel from the zombies in Conker's Bad Fur Day.
It's the fight or flight response.
Right, yeah, in the earlier example, you're in flight mode already, no matter what you do. The fight or flight, that's the scary one because that requires you to make split-second decisions that could determine the outcome of whether you're going to, inside the game's reality, live or die, and just the fact that you have to make that choice and you have to make it quickly. And there's no guarantee that you've made the right decision to either try and shoot these zombies on foot or say the fuck with this and jump on top of the headstone. The fact that you're constantly in survival mode, that has a wearing down effect, especially when it's just unequivocally supernatural, creepy imagery that's forcing you to make those decisions.
Yeah. I think for me, what makes a game scary, and I may have mentioned this in the past, that like when I was like a little kid, like 5 years old, and playing Super Mario Brothers for the NES, I was actually scared of progressing too far in the game because I thought there would be some scary shit popping up. Like I would have nightmares about like the later worlds of Super Mario Brothers that I hadn't reached yet, and what kind of like otherworldly horrors awaited me.
So you were fearing the unknown in that sense.
Yeah. And that's I think, especially when you're a kid and you don't know much about the world outside of your own little bubble. Yeah. The fear of the unknown is the primary horror in your life. I mean, you don't know how the world works at all, and for all you know, all of these like scary stories might be real, and it even might pop up in Super Mario Brothers, might World 8. Who knows what, demons await there. I'm serious.
No, I agree with like the child logic, of course, because as a kid, you don't understand that, how video games are constructed, or the fact that Nintendo's not going to do that. But it's of course I felt the same thing playing through sort of games where there was a clear difficulty curve. Even just fearing the idea that you're going to ultimately be confronted with something that you can't get past. Because at a certain point, especially as a kid with an active imagination, you do get sucked into the reality of the Mushroom Kingdom, even though it's just a bunch of crude pixels.
Yeah, and I think really for me, like, as somebody who doesn't go out and buy scary games or even watch and consume scary movies, like, why would I want to introduce that to my life? But it's the Trojan horse factor, where you buy into this experience, and then all of a sudden there's this scare lurking in there that you weren't expecting, and it's suddenly in your living room, and you've got to suddenly face it, like this unexpected event, and find some fortitude. And this is more applicable when you're a kid, of course. When you're an adult, it's like, oh fuck, Okay. There's
just general difficulty.
There's a giant octopus underwater and he's stalking me. Okay, time to man up. But when you're a kid, you really have to face your fears. You really have to find fortitude you never knew you had, and overcome it. And it's kind of a victorious moment if you can muster it, because it's I think, in our sheltered, cushy, first world existences, we're not really confronted with too much, in a way, if we're lucky, with frightening things in the world. I mean, the middle class is dying, but I think we both had somewhat close to middle class upbringings. And so to have to be able to indirectly experience something like something frightening, if it's a war-torn battlefield, or the undead crawling from the grave to drag you under, it definitely tricks your brain into having the same reaction. And
I'd say there's one other type of scary game that I think is only really effective when paired with either the pure flight or the fight or flight that we talked about earlier. But
you're talking about Donkey Konga, right?
That's right. That's when you've committed yourself to an impossible task. No,
I have been flighting from that for a while now.
Yeah, our patrons might force you into it.
I know.
But no, it's when a game removes a sense of reasonable control, and nothing frustrates me with a game faster or more ardently when I feel like I've failed because I'm not in control of what's happening, and it's not my fault. But there are some games that, like, for example, the Fatal Frame series, where it's like a horror version of Pokemon Snap. It recently came out on the Wii U.
That was called Say Cheese and Die, Chad.
Classic Goosebumps. No, there's a demo of it on the Wii U now, and I played it to give it a shot. And it's interesting the way it uses the gamepad as your camera, which you think would be a no-brainer application for, like, Pokemon Snap if Game Freak made sense. But on this game, at least in the very early stages, the thing that struck me so much is, like, there are really terrifying rotting corpse ghosts of women that are popping up out of the water all around you, but you can't really run, and when you can run, it's like this plodding, it's like running through molasses in a nightmare, and it's not like you have no control, but your control is reduced to such a degree that you are like, I was white knuckling the gamepad through this whole thing, and again, I sort of gave up because it was too stressful, and I don't need that in my life right now. But it was certainly accomplishing what it set out to do.
Yeah, white knuckling. Is that the game where Nintendo removed the panty clad underage girl?
Yes. I think there was like a Dead or Alive crossover, and in European and Japanese territories, there's a lingerie costume which she wears through the entirety of this horribly haunted, spooky, demonic mansion.
Again, my point is, in Europe and Japan, white knuckling meant something completely different.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Because of the spillage over their knuckles.
Oh.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.
Never could be any other way.